mentioned, like, no those star fine prints here. What is the purpose of today's event? How many of you know what is the purpose of today's event? It's not to market anything. It's not to sell anything. It's just to learn and connect with like-minded individuals. So how many of you are here to learn? Just raise your hand. I'm also here to learn. So by no means this is going to be a one-way lecture or anything. It's just sharing the best practices, sharing the knowledge, and learning from that vast knowledge. We are all lifelong students. We need to be lifelong students in every discipline, every walk of our lives. And that's what we are going to do today. So as part of the session, we are going to share like some of the tidbits about what's happening, especially in other side of the world, Silicon Valley and other areas, over last decade, how far we have come in terms of technology development over the last decade, and where things are going, where they are moving in the future as we speak. So we need to keep an eye on both perspectives. We need to learn history as well as the future. Only then we can be perfect individuals, more of a holistic individuals with complete vision for our reference. So without a further ado, there was a very popular video which went viral few months back in US about the small bear cub distracted from his or her mom and not able to climb on this slope. And this was a particular story about the past, exactly how the technology has evolved today. It's a story of passion, it's a story of persistence, it's a story of perseverance. No matter how fast, how many times you keep on falling, you don't give up trying. You continue with your effort, you continue with your passion, you continue with whatever strength you've got to meet your goals and objectives. So the past is all great. All the great companies we hear about today, the Facebooks and the Googles of the world, it feels awesome. Wow, how hardships like struck them and how they came out of all those bottlenecks and overcame all those hurdles. We love those stories. But what about the future? What are we doing with the future? What is the future in the first place? Do we know what the future is? So it's a slightly silly thing, but it's really a feudal understanding of like a random collection of events. It's not known, but we still love to predict. How many of you are watching and doing horoscopes? Good, not many, because ultimately it's what we make of our own lives, right? So we like to know sometimes about the future, but it's not what we like to know, it's what we make that is really the future. So let me quickly run through some 18 pieces of technology, and your job is to find out what's common in all of them. It's a simple exercise, yeah? iPad, so just we'll go fast, okay? Chrome browser, almost everybody uses Chrome, except people who are stuck on Windows IE still. Snapchat, which people love, especially young generation. Airbnb, if you're traveling around the world, you have to use Airbnb. It's not much of a choice. Spotify for music, people who are jogging, running, doing exercises and all, they love that. All the virtual reality gadgets. Stripe for payments. If you're running your startup, you might have customers or you might have some other professional engagements where people hook you up with Stripe for payments. Instagram, obviously. Kickstarter for startup fundings. Entrepreneurs among yourselves might have to use that, Indiegogo or Kickstarter or some other variant of that. Labesh mentioned smartphone GPS, ubiquitous smartphone GPS. Lyft and obviously Uber and all. Pinterest. Square, another variant for payments. 5G next generation wireless or 4G LTE for that matter. Uber, Venmo for payments, and everybody's favorite WhatsApp. And for business communication collaboration, Slack. What is common in all these 18 technologies? We are almost at the end of 2018. We need to understand what's common in these 18 pieces of technologies. Somebody? Sorry? Mobile. They're all mobile centric, yes, because mobile came in like after iPhone, basically there was a revolution of mobile. But the baseline thing is, as we are talking about disruptions of the decade, none of these popular 18 technologies were around just 10 years ago. Not a single one. They all came in existence in less than 10 years, last 10 years. So this last decade is really a disruption. It's full of disruptions all around us. And there are many more actually. We just took like 18 of them, but there are many more. For example, intelligent voice assistants and AI and many other things which are coming up on the horizon. They may not be still mature or as popular as those 18, but there are many. But sometimes it feels like it's just a matter of talk. It's not reality. People just keep on talking about these things, but when time comes for really doing something, we are still stuck in that old generation thing. We are talking about the digital disruptions, right? Many times what happens is we start with the digital transformation as the objective, but many times in the conference calls and all, we end up faxing those presentations, right? Talking of digital disruption. So we talk at this level, we execute at that level, and there is no bridging the gap in between. So what can we do collectively today? There is a great video. Actually, I'll just, instead of sharing the full video, I'll post a link here. You can watch at your leisurely time. It's a very interesting video saying like, what if we live 50 years in the future? What kind of technology landscape we are going to see or we hope to see 50 years down the line. I mean, today we have to press buttons to make calls or press buttons to do certain things. Most of the things will be like voice controlled, gesture controls, and even the thought controlled, the brain waves controlled in the future. There are no physical things like holograms will be everywhere. So no physical projection screens and projectors like this here. People should be able to enjoy all such presentations in thin air, like everywhere, wherever they want, projected from their smart gadgets, and like a lot of great stuff inside that video. So do watch it for sure. But there are other people who have tried to come up with ideas about like what are some of the things to come in the future in next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And some people have done a great job of those things. As if you see like ingestible robots or photonics or carbon breathing batteries and super antivirals and diamond batteries, nano feasibilities, like lots of great stuff which is going to happen. The next evolution of AI, not just AI, but AGI as they call it, artificial general intelligence. So AI is a very limited term today, but AGI is like human-like intelligence as they call it. So many different things are expected by 2050, but at the end of the day, we need to be the change that we want to see in the future, right? It's not like somebody else is not going to force that change. Collectively, we people sitting in this room and collectively the population of the world, human beings of the world, they are going to make these changes. Nobody else is going to introduce these changes to us. So if we want to make any changes, we need to know what the future is. So that's the real problem. We want to make changes in the future. We want to get a great future, but many times we have no idea about what the real future we would like to see is. So what is the future? Is it into this various kind of technological advancements like flying cars or this automated completely robotic deliveries? For example, this Pizza Hut delivery was announced in the US sometime back. It actually starts making pizza when actually the truck leaves after the order. So by the time it gets to your doorstep, you have really fresh pizza made out of the oven and get it delivered. It's all robotic, by the way. So is it in those things, or is it in the quantum internet, not the quantum computing, but the quantum internet, or is it in the space elevators where there is a lot of movement these days happening, or is it in the reversing the aging process? Nobody wants to grow old. Nobody wants white hair or no hair. People want to be young forever. People want to live healthy forever. So is it the future really in the reversing the aging process, or is it in the designer babies? Now people can specify that, hey, I want fair skin and IQ is awesome and all those specifications and tailor-made list of their babies they want to get. So there won't be no Miss Universe, Miss World, Mr. World kind of competitions in the future because everybody would be awesome. All babies would be great, right? So is it really the future in that, or is it in this digital twins uploading our consciousness somewhere else and living forever outside of the body? So even though you physically lose your body, your consciousness, your learning, your knowledge lives on forever. There are experiments happening around those, and Hollywood movies have made those things very popular, but that's becoming more and more a reality. And Stephen Hawking, his last book before he died, he has given some great answers, like brief answers to the critical questions of life. He has given some awesome indications, and one of them is we probably have only 100 years left on this planet as a whole, as a human race. So even though we might want to think in the future that 200 years later, 500 years later, we may not be around. Nobody may be around in those 100 years. So space colonization, is it really the answer for the future? Is that where the future is going to be? Or we are able to survive harnessing the power source of the universe, so building the power plants in space. Ultimately, it's about energy. At the end of the day, how can we harness the energy in the most efficient and most cheapest manner? So if we harness the solar energy using space power plants, maybe we can live on the same planet for more than 100 years. Nobody knows. Is the future in colonizing of the space? Or is it in this hyper-connected world of IoT that everybody talks about, that, hey, it's awesome, the Internet of Everything, Internet of Things? Or increasing number of hacks as a result of increased connectivity and increased hardware power, increased software power, easier to kind of break into things. Or somebody might have seen a lot of these examples. This Mirai bot, for example, just one of the IoT bots. The Japanese name Mirai is equal to future. So these are the problems of the future as well. So that bot was considered as one of the most severe bot. And not only that, after that, there were hackings about the canvas of this Jeep, the car. So somebody was able to remotely hack this Jeep and drive it in whatever directions at whatever mileage they were able to. And St. Jude Medical's, those cardiac supportive devices, they were also hacked. So many other cams and every single IoT device. I mean, even though all IoT is great as we think from a business opportunity perspective, there are inherent dangers in there. So is the future really great in pursuing those things blindly? Because some countries are sponsoring like state-based terrorism also and cyber crime. So this particular one was detected by Bloomberg, and it affected so many companies, including Amazon and Apple. So China introduced this tiny chip. It's even difficult to see at the circuit board level. So with the circle is, so in the whole congested circuit board, can you even spot that tiny chip? So China basically introduced that physical chip on every single circuit board manufactured directly at the manufacturer site, and they were snooping on every single server of Amazon, Apple, and other companies. So these are the things which are happening as a result of hyperconnectivity. So the future is not there, it's all done. All of those things what we see, it's not about future, it's about present. They're all done today. So future is already here, it's now as we speak. And we have seen some evidences as well in many of the things we see on LinkedIn and WhatsApp and all. So how many years it took for different kind of industries to capture 50 million users. At the top left of it is like airline industry took 68 years versus the bottom right is like faster companies, Pokemon Go and the games like that, they acquire 50 million users in less than a month's time frame. So technology adoption has accelerated drastically. I mean, it's beyond what we can fathom. What used to take years and decades before now has been happening in merely weeks and days as we speak. Just one concrete example. In 1946, this is a general purpose supercomputer, first general purpose supercomputer, ENIAC, in US. And that was developed at the cost of $5.5 million back in those days. And it was doing this 5,000 operations per second. And we all know cell phones you and I are carrying today, they are way powerful than this general purpose computer, but not the cell phones. Actually, those music jingle playing greeting cards that you get in the simple stores, they are super powerful than the back in the day supercomputer, the fastest. They are 800 times faster. The simple processor which does nothing but playing those audio jingles as you open the card They are 800 times faster than the capacity and the processing power of the supercomputer of 1946. And not only faster, it's less expensive and it's smaller. And if that computer in 1946, instead of $5.5 million, it would have cost $4.4 billion if it had to have the same processing power of today's greeting card, like simple tiny greeting card. So that's how far we have come in terms of computation technologies. And not just computation, storage-wise, if you look at it, all of the world's data can be stored in size like half of this room, entire data set, if we use this DNA as the storage. And it can take 215 petabytes per gram of a strand of DNA. That is the capacity of DNA as a storage. The storage and retrieval is not cost effective today, so that's why it's not happening, but eventually those costs will go down. So technology is there. It's more of a making it viable, making it feasible, and making it available to the common man, but it's going to happen. So not only on the compute side, on the storage side, the same thing. On the network side, the quantum internet is coming. There are trials running as we speak in Chicago between Fermi Labs and 2 other labs in the same region. The way quantum internet works is, people may not be familiar with the quantum theory, but there is a notion of quantum entanglement where one photon on one side of, when there are quantum entanglement, one photon on one location, whatever it does, the remote photon actually mimics the behavior. So there is no physical transportation, no wires, no wireless, but the photons basically transmit the data back and forth by mimicking the behavior. So there is nothing to snoop on in between. So no man in the middle attack for the quantum internet. So that's why it's considered as super secure. Agreed that it can be hacked at the endpoints, but given today's standards, it's still super secure. So fast, so not only on the compute side, not only on the storage side, but on the connectivity side also, things are moving really, really fast. And blockchain for the distributed ledger, distributed trust, I mean, everybody should be knowing and paying attention to all the cryptocurrencies and the future of all the connected and distributed databases and ledgers. US government recently approved the HoloLens as an AR system, augmented reality system for surgical use. Now, FDA in US, they never approve an immature technology, especially for the life critical things. I mean, they are like super secure from that angle. Any like Western government is like, they are super obnoxious about such things. But the fact that they have given official permission of using it in the surgery rooms, that shows like how far, how mature the technology has become today, even though we may not be aware of the outcomes there. How many of you have heard about this CRISPR technology? So CRISPR is another dangerous but powerful technology. So it's a gene editing technology. So you can basically cut and paste, just like any Word document, you can cut and paste human genome and get those designer babies we talked about earlier. You can specify that, hey, I want a baby with IQ of 200, and you cut certain gene sequence and you paste certain gene sequence, and boom, here you got a baby with IQ of 200. You say, hey, I want my baby's skin to be fair, cut and paste, and boom, you have got baby with a fair skin. That's the power of CRISPR. And so far, they have been running trials on non-human subjects, but more recently, they have started on human subjects as well. And this is one example. In the lab, they produced mice with 2 moms. So there is no dad needed. So the world is going this side. They tried trials with 2 dads, but those mice died in less than 2 weeks. They did not survive. But when they say the 2 moms can give birth to a child in the future, so that's the future which is happening today. And what they are using it for, they are using this CRISPR and the other technologies to fight genetic diseases, but not only that, they are actually bringing back those extinct animals and birds species. So this is one example. These are passenger pigeons in US. So they are extinct for more than 100 years. They no longer exist. But from the DNA obtained today, they are actually in the process of recreating the species right here. So no wonder if you see some dinosaurs running around, right? Just like Jurassic Park can happen, it was a fantasy when the movie was shot, but it's becoming a reality today. So Jurassic Park may not be a fantasy. It may very well be a reality. And we are achieving on the escape velocity on the longevity side, so that reversing the aging process that's happening. So every year we live, actually we are finding the technology that increases our lifespan by more than 1 year. So you spend 1 year in living, but you extend your life by say 1.5 years or 2 years. So essentially you are going to live for infinite number of years. You are basically catching up on the escape velocity. So you have escaped the cycle of getting older. So you can be living forever, potentially living forever younger. And in terms of energy crisis, China has already announced plans for artificial moons. So next to this particular natural moon, China is launching these huge satellites with mirrors, which are going to reflect the sunlight to give the same effect as moon. They are going to power and lighten up the entire cities. So one moon can lighten the night sky of the entire city. So no energy crisis whatsoever, no night lights in the city, all powered by artificial moon. And China is going to launch at least 4 of them in the beginning, and these moons are going to be 10 times brighter than the natural moon. That's how they are designed. So natural moon will appear dim versus this artificial moon will be shining as if it's Purnima every day. And all the precision robots, as we are seeing, they are doing tasks from soldering to surgery. So robots were not about precision in the past. There was always some mechanical jitter and some uncertainties, inaccuracies. Nowadays, they are becoming so precise that they are being used in eye surgery and heart surgery and doing the soldering tasks on like minute pieces of electronics as they are being manufactured. So things are going really, really, video is uploading, but modular robots at the Cornell University. So these are like self-understanding robots, and they are modular. So they are self-organizing according to the task at hand. So whatever challenge needs to be solved in front of them, they recognize and they organize themselves. Some pieces go up and down and left and right, and they reorganize themselves to finish the task at hand. And there is a long video about it, like trying to do different tasks. And same way in Stanford University, they are doing this flycrow tugs, which is able to move 40 times their own weight. Any flying object, when I was working in the commercial drone program, typically like if you are able to move 2 times your own weight, it's considered as a big achievement, just 2x. I mean, ants can lift many, many more times their own body weight, but any flying object cannot move typically 2 times their own body mass. So these flying robots with different kind of technologies, they are able to lift and move weights 40 times more than their body mass, so which is really amazing and remarkable. Speaking of space elevators, China has developed a super micro light but strong material with 1.6 gram of weight. That strand can lift the weight of 160 elephants. So that is going to be used in the space elevators, because when you are putting those ropes to go in the space, you need like super light but super strong material as the holding pattern, and that's what China is claiming to be for making for the space elevators. In terms of communication as well, the physical medium need, whether it's a Wi-Fi or wired or wireless or whatever that is, that's also kind of becoming more of, it's optional. Direct human brain-to-brain communication, as we were imagining whether it's going to be possible. We were saying that, hey, telepathy, I was just remembering, and you show up. The telepathy used to be a thing of the past, that, hey, it's some fantasy, but no, it's becoming more of a reality. So the research in MIT Technology Review recently, they created direct brain-to-brain communication between multiple individuals to collaborate on a task. No physical mediums, they were not seeing each other, nothing except brain-to-brain communication. So things are happening which we may not even realize outside of this room. Google's AlphaGo Zero, how many of you have heard about this AlphaGo and AlphaGo Zero systems? So AlphaGo was obviously the AI machine which beat the game of Go, similar to chess. It's a game of Go. So world champion Lee Sedol was defeated by this AI system. But then the next version, this zero part, so the previous version was historically started and fed with the previous games and how to play the rules and all that. But the zero version was not fed with a single historical game data nor any human intervention. So it was starting from scratch as if it's a newborn child. No prior learning, nothing. And within the time of 40 days, so within the time of just 40 days, this system was able to become undefeatable Go playing system in the world. So merely like in less than 5 days, it was able to beat the first version of AlphaGo and then move on, and within 40 days, it was pretty much becoming an invincible system, so AlphaGo 0. So when we see about a lot of things about IoT and AI happening this way, so disruptions of the next decade as we think, I mean, what we saw so far, it's all happening as we speak. But even more progress, more accelerated progress and growth is going to come in some of the domains, and we may be wrong completely or we may be dead right. Who knows? Only time will tell how far correct we are. But IoT and voice and AI are the three different distinct trends which are emerging as we speak for the next decade. So those are gaining a lot of momentum and a lot of traction in the industry, because any trend has to be like self-sustainable as well. Not only it should solve some consumer pain point or provide some intelligence, some advancement and some help, it has to be viable from a business perspective as well. So voice is one of those technologies. Is considered as the new touch. So as we were talking to some of the people, some of you downstairs, all the touchscreen based, app based interfaces, they are going to be vanished in the next 10 years. Because to control every single device, you have an app. To do one thing, you have another app. To do other thing, you have another app. So how many apps? It's a non-scalable solution to the problem at hand. How many apps you are practically going to be able to install and manage? There is always a physical limit. So voice is considered as more natural, more intuitive interface of the future. So it's a human-machine interface instead of using touch as the interface, because touch interface requires two senses, your hands and your eyes. So instead of that, human body is amazing. Like it always looks for simple, easier ways. So instead of occupying two senses, let's make it 50% efficient and use only one sense, voice. You talk and it happens, that's it. So even when your hands and eyes are busy in primary tasks, you can still give voice commands through additional channel. So not only it's natural and intuitive, it offers an additional channel to work while your eyes and hands are focused on few other things. And it's considered very efficient. No matter how fast you type, people can type at almost an average of 50 words per minute, versus when you're talking, speech, you can give 150 words per minute. So it's 3 times more efficient channel. It's an additional channel, and technological advancements are happening, making speech synthesis and natural language understanding much more powerful these days, as witnessed by all the Alexa speaker and Google Home speakers and many other technologies we are witnessing today. Right? So those things are happening as we speak. And just as a quick statistic, it's like almost 23% of US adult population, and these are like old numbers, they are growing day by day. So almost 1/4 of US population, they own a smart speaker of some kind beyond Siri on their mobile phones, obviously. And many of you have seen this like Google demo of making a call, like Google Duplex, making a call, making an appointment and reservation all by itself using voice and AI combination, right? I mean, it has become very popular, Sundar Pichai. But AI is not new. I mean, we have seen glimpses of AI in variety of robotics and variety of other areas, like simple things as recommendation engines, for example, in Netflix or in Facebook or in LinkedIn, Amazon, Google, wherever. Whenever you are browsing the web, they connect the dots and derive intelligence from there. So in a sense, it is AI of some kind. So if we look back and think on the bigger perspective, where things are, where are they basically moving forward? So we see a distinct trend. So initially they were like hand-powered professions, the blue-collar jobs and professions and careers. And slowly that is moving to the white-collar type of jobs. all the IT and the computer-centric kind of jobs. But moving forward, they are moving more of emotional kind of jobs, the heart-centric jobs, because all the head and head-centric jobs, they can be overtaken by robots and AI systems. Robots and AI systems can do much better job of those like hand and head-powered systems. But hold on to that. Robots and AI systems are actually coming after the heart-based jobs as well, not only head and hand. So this is a music album by AI, completely created music. Creation of a music, it's an expression of art. So music creation, and the album name itself is I Am AI. And that was done in 2017, not even in 18, last year. Not only music, AI systems are writing entire novels, stories, articles, blog posts today as we speak. Not only that, they are doing paintings as well. So typically the area of art is considered the area of heart. That hey, you should have emotions, you should have feelings in order to create any piece of art, whether it's music or a novel or painting or any such creative piece. But these AIs and machine learning systems are coming after that domain as well. This was the most recent example in last 2 weeks. How many faces you can recognize? Probably none of them. The reason is all of these realistic faces, they are generated by an NVIDIA's algorithm called deep fake. So they take in thousands, tens of thousands of faces in, and they create from scratch some mishmash of realistically looking faces that you can never ever think that, hey, this guy is real or virtual. And if somebody creates Facebook, LinkedIn, and profiles with all those pictures, like you would imagine that, hey, these guys are real, but they are non-existent. And there are robotic systems, the chatbot systems, they are powering creations of profiles, posting messages, sending you messages and requests and sales and marketing messages day in and day out. And we don't even recognize and realize that these are not real people at all behind those technologies. So the state of AI has been exponentially growing and maturing as we speak. So first chess playing computer that beat Garry Kasparov, Deep Blue by IBM in 1996. Then the Watson playing Jeopardy game. And then earlier this year, they announced Libratus, Carnegie Mellon University, they announced this poker playing computer. The way it was different from chess and Jeopardy was previous 2 generations, they had like hard specified rules of a game. That chess, there are finite number of moves, legal moves. And it was computation powered. The chess playing computer was computation powered. Versus this poker playing guy, this Libratus, is they are actually bluffing also on behalf of a user. The game of poker inherently implies like you need to bluff sometimes, and sometimes you need to tell the truth. So when do you decide to bluff versus when do you decide to tell the truth? It's a very, very subjective matter. It's not an objectified game of rules type of things. But they created such a computer which defeated all human champions earlier this year, every single one of them. And later on, towards the late part of 2018, they had this debater computer which was able to engage in any debate in any topic in the world. You can ask, okay, who is going to win the 2019 India elections? And the computer will say whether it's Modi or not. Right? It's like as simple as that, and it will give the reasons also that for these reasons I think it's this way versus for those reasons I think it's that way. So things are moving really fast, and some of the people, some of the leaders of the world like Elon Musk are challenging whether AI is an existential threat or not. And the answer today is it's not, at least for now, because even those AlphaGo and the Go systems where the chess playing computers and all, they were working on very structured pieces of the finite set of problems. If you change even one variable, so for example in the game of Go, the square size of the board game was 19 by 19. Even if you make it like 20 by 20 square, the computer will have no clue about how to play that game. So it is far from equating to human intelligence today, but those days are limited and counting. It's just a matter of time when this AI expands to the general intelligence. But then there are questions about morals and ethics. So for example, a very popular use case which is being discussed at Harvard in last few months is like it's an autonomous car, it's driving down the path, and two people, an old lady and a baby, they are crossing the road, and car has to hit one of them. There is no other choice. So which one the car will decide to hit, right? So I mean, it's a morality question, it's an ethics question. Like if you have to hit somebody, whether you will kill the old lady or whether you will kill the infant. And they did a survey in the world, and there were surprising results. All the Western world participants in the survey, they said they should kill the infant. And all the Eastern world, India and Japan and China, Korea, all those participants, they said, hey, they should kill the old lady, not the infant, right? So it's the whole human psychology also depends on where you live, which environment you live. And the same thing goes for IoT as well. I mean, even though we talk a lot about AI, IoT is no different. I mean, it's in the similar ball game. Probably it's much more mature than AI, but I mean, the potential is huge, it's infinite, but at the end of the day, we question like, why does it even matter? Any technology, not just IoT, any technology, why should it matter at the end of the day? So there are three distinct reasons of why it should matter or why it matters. It's monetization, productivity, or stakeholder experience. Very, very simple fact. If you understand in layman terms, it's either top line, you get new revenue, new money in from the outside, you affect your bottom line, you save on your cost side, or you increase the engagement of the user, right, or your customers. You improve the experience on that side. So if any technology is not affecting this one or more of these three things, it's not going to be surviving. It's not going to be sustainable. So as future entrepreneurs in the room, when you're developing technologies, where you are maturing your ideas, think about these artifacts. Only then you will really know and understand like what are the dangers and what are the opportunities. So generally I like to ask this question to the audience is like, what would you prefer? There is a king cobra hidden in your home. What would you prefer? Would you like to have that knowledge, or would you rather not know about it? What is better? You can be peacefully ignorant and blissfully ignorant that, hey, there is a king cobra hidden in your home somewhere. You keep on living your life and that's it, like everything is good. Versus you can start worrying about it and how to tame, how to capture, how to call the snake control board and whatnot and address the problem. So which one is better? Same thing goes for the technology side as well. Knowing the dangers and opportunities of the future technology, knowing it is better, or not knowing and being blissfully ignorant about it is better. So in my opinion, knowing it is much better. At least you can address it. But the best way obviously to create anything, best way to predict any future reliably is to obviously create it. And how do we create it? I mean, the human brain is really powerful. So I love this quote about Michio Kaku. He's a futurist, and he has identified this really amazing thing. It's like 100 billion neurons times 10,000 connections. So sitting on everybody's shoulders is a really powerful object in the universe. It's like a master supercomputer we all have. We all have been gifted with that. And that's what we should use for questioning the status quo, for nurturing our curiosity. Even Einstein could not survive without curiosity. I mean, that's how the world's greatest inventions have happened. Greatest discoveries have happened so far. But many times we engage on fighting the old, fighting the bureaucracies, fighting the status quo, instead of channelizing our energy into creating something new. When the GDPR rules came out for this data protection and all, somebody gave this awesome cartoon, right? It's like, hey, here is a new way of doing things, right? We have to find out creative ways of how to get around them as well. So when the GST was launched here, same thing, people started thinking about like, hey, how do you go around them? Instead of making the best use of the opportunity, we try to be more skeptical about things, try to find flaws in the negativity of the things instead of focusing our energy onto the positive sides. Many times life gives us a lot of opportunities for new things, but we keep on doing things in the same old manner. We are not open to this new opportunity. So when the luck really strikes, we think that, hey, it's a bad fortune. So same old thinking gives the same old results, and we reinforce the same old thinking, and again the cycle continues, right? So, but sometimes it's a matter of perspective. What do you think it's doing?
Got him.
So it is a matter of perspective. Whatever appears is not always true. Same thing here. Whatever looks like camels here, they are just shadows of the camels if you look closely. The real camels are right on the top. So the way this was awarded in the National Geographic, one of the best pictures of the year. So it's an interesting thing. We have to change our focus in order to see things from different perspective, to understand in a different manner. And we'll conclude with this same video we started off with. Sometimes that bear cub, it was following the known path that its mom followed, but it was falling down, sliding down continuously, unless and until it found a better path, which was uncharted territory. It was a completely new path, and only then that bear cub was able to make its way through to the top. So proven paths may or may not work all the time. Like proven wisdom, we say, hey, experience. But experience may not work all the time. Sometimes you have to be ready to discover new paths and chart new territories, chart new waters, uncharted waters. At the end of the day, if we don't like whatever the future we are being dealt with, then we should be willing and ready and open to create and build our own. Because at the end of the day, the big scheme of things, both kings and pawns go into the same box, right, at the end of the game. So we need to put within the limited time frame that we have available at our disposal, we need to put our efforts into those perspectives, like where do we and how do we channelize our efforts in the best possible way. So we should always be asking this one perspective question, every single one of us, to ourselves, not to answer to anybody else, to ourselves, that hey, what can I do individually? Things are changing all around me. The future is being disrupted, new technologies are coming, they are being discovered every single day, but what can I do in my own place in this world? And that depends on many different aspects, but I was told here we have like 3 distinct groups of people, students, entrepreneurs, and professionals. So if, depending on what your role is, always be open. So if you are professional, sharpen the saw, keep learning new skills all the time. Don't be complacent in your job. So whatever job kept you and brought you here today, it's not going to take you forward in the next 5 years. Many of the jobs in the next 10 years, they are not even invented yet. So there is nobody who knows about them today. So you need to continuously learn, transform yourself, keep on learning new skills and make it as a habit. Not just a knowledge or skill, but make it as a habit of learning new things every day in and day out. And other part is help others to help yourself. Because other thing we were talking downstairs is like when you teach somebody what you know, actually you learn twice as fast and twice as much. So be open to learning and teaching both ways. Teach others as well what you know. So in order to help yourself better, be a lifelong student. So even if you are a professional, be a lifelong student. And same thing goes for students as well. Achieve self-mastery and through self-discipline, any domain, whatever you like, but try to achieve depth and self-mastery in those domains. and have this problem solving, solution oriented mindset. I mean, there are problems every day for everybody in day-to-day life, but always focus on solutions. What could be the solution? That is what going to bring out new ideas and maybe entrepreneurship ideas for you as well. Everybody can be an entrepreneur and should be an entrepreneur, but unless and until you have a solution-focused mindset, it's very difficult to achieve. And other part is like same thing is like seek mentors and be coachable. Don't have the attitude that I know everything. Nobody knows everything. Be always a student, be open to learning. And same thing goes for entrepreneurs as well, that focus on innovation, but innovation with business models. Like empty innovation for the sake of innovation is just a hobby. It's not a business. So understand the difference between business and hobby. It has to be tied with some sort of financially sustainable model. And focus on me to we ecosystem culture. Together, I think everybody can win more. So many people are keeping like ideas and deals and everything to themselves. But if you expand your circle of influence, expand the circle of collaboration that we are all participating in, everybody can learn and benefit at a much larger scale and create a bigger ecosystem together. And at the end of the day, this continuous learning is also essential for entrepreneurs as well. So it's a circular thing. For professionals, it's a lifelong student. For students, it's an entrepreneurship. And for entrepreneurs, it's again being a great professional day in and day out. And we'll conclude with this one last definition of this awesome innovation definition one of my ex-colleagues provided. It's a very simple one-liner, but every single word has a meaning attached to that. So if you dissect it, innovation is the action. It's an act, first of all. It's not in thoughts. Ideas are dime a dozen. It doesn't matter. I may have a great idea, but unless I execute on something, it's not going to matter in the end. So action is really critical. Solving problems. Problems are always there, but focus on the solutions. Relevant problems. There are other problems which are not relevant. So focus your energy, the limited timeline on this earth, into relevant problems solution. Contextually novel. So it has to be contextual. One size does not fit all. So one problem, one solution which is working in the US doesn't mean that exact same problem or same solution will work in India or in Japan or Korea. You have to think in a contextually relevant manner. And there has to be some novelty. If somebody has already solved that problem, 5 people have solved that problem, what's the new thing you are bringing in it, right? I mean, why you are different? You have to be something, you have to bring something different to be a player in the ecosystem. And the last word which I love the most, it's ways, it's plural. There is not a single way to solve a problem. There are always multiple ways of solving any problem. So think out of the box, think more creatively, and be open to this futuristic idea. So one artist was asked this question, like, what's your best work? And what he said is the next one. So none of the previous ones. Always focus on what you can do, what the potential is with every single one of us. And that's where we can say all the disruptions of the decades are the ones that we make. It's not that anybody else is going to make, it's what we make collectively together. So as we are entering the year 2019, we need to think and be positive about all those challenges that we see in ourselves, in our lives, because rainbows always happen in cloudy skies. So whenever there is like challenges, our lives are surrounded with challenges, we need to focus that, hey, something great is going to come out of those challenges, and we need to be ready to tackle those challenges collectively by connecting and collaborating and working together with fellow like-minded individuals like the audience in this room today. So are you ready to learn? Yes. Are you really ready to learn? Yes. All right, let's make it happen in 2019. Thank you.